Welcome back to The Matrix. Today I'm looking at where my notes usually live, and there's just one thing that says, keep it short. So that's the kind of motivation we're going into 2022 with. Noble, brazen. Listen, I don't know about you, but my OCD has me contractually obligated to get 25 of these out a year. Otherwise I look at that playlist and I feel bad inside. It's fine being a slave to my obsessive tendencies, though. Someone has to benefit out of it. Sadly, it's not you. Harry's brother tried to kill Sarah Jane Smith. Today's first act takes us to the Proto-Sarah Jane Adventures, the Big Finish self-titled EP Sarah Jane Smith. These audios, though, were not kid-friendly. Barry Letts and Terrence Dicks are telling stories about terrorist bombings and biological warfare, homeless young men floating in the Thames face down, a lot of black magic. I guess Canon and company really stuck. Serial killers and cults. But hilariously, all of these really dark adventures tie in almost perfectly into School Reunion. Both that episode and the Sarah Jane Adventures make plenty references to them, down to Luke's car and the fact that K9 is out of commission, that Sarah can use Venusian Aikido, and that old Aunt Lavinia dying. What is it with Doctor Who and dead aunts, by the way? Nothing big, there's just a few. In the end, this run was cut short as Sarah Jane Smith returned to television with a whole new setup and cast of kids to babysit. With only a 3-month gap in the interim, Sarah Jane Smith was very busy before the events of School Reunion, and has gone through a lot of trauma. Did you know that just the year before School Reunion, Sarah Jane Smith was like a public figure? Oh yeah, this undercover woman with all the world's biggest secrets in her attic. She had a television series where she was the lead investigative journalist. The late great Terrence Dicks decided this television endeavour backfired and left Sarah Jane Smith on the run for her life. This never really gets resolved, meaning I guess that Sarah Jane Smith is a fugitive during the events of the CBBC show? Like, don't get me wrong, she shouldn't be hanging out with all these kids, but that's for some other reasons. Namely, because last time Sarah was on a university campus, there was a cult society trying to murder her. Fatal Consequences introduces the stepbrother of Harry Sullivan, who, remember at this point, is missing in action. We've covered him before. He's probably fine, according to Big Finish. Will Sullivan joins a uni society, and within the week is radicalized into an alien satanic cult, with plans for genocide.
All these kids these days getting brainwashed at the University of PC.
As it turns out, this society of young adults are actually worshipping Demnos, the Roman god of moonlight. Oh, I joined the society back in second year. And the Brotherhood of Demnos just love the Mandragora Helix. Yeah, it's a Mask Mandragora sequel. The whole thing. Sarah finds herself in the middle of a holy war between children, drunk children, who plan to kill the Herald of Mandragora, bring about an end to humanity. Man, everyone is out to get Sarah in this one. Harry Sullivan's stepbrother attempts an assassination. Hilda Winters, the fascist from Robot, she's back. She's almost shot in Florence in Series 1. Things get so bad for Sarah that all of the characters worry about her paranoia, always looking in rearview windows, and even apparently carrying a rape alarm. Dad, when is she gonna fight this Levine? Sorry, son. No fun alien antics. We're going to Antarctica to solve the human sacrifice blood pact conspiracy that has brought about this holy war. In the final story, they send Sarah Jane to space. One of the few stories set during the first space tourism flight, not led by a multimillionaire because this isn't a dystopian world. Despite all the evidence to the contrary, Elizabeth Sladen's final Big Finish outing sees Sarah Jane abandoned, as Sarah Jane floats around the orbit of space. An adventure that then is left on a cliffhanger. Something, then she's in a school. Yeah, that's an unfortunate cliffhanger. People have tried to resolve the gap, including One Short Trip. This Stephen Critchlow story tries to bridge the gap between this and Series 2. And my word, just the absolute definition of canon plaster. Sadly putting this short-lived series in Doctor Who purgatory without a proper intended ending. Add it to the list of unresolved stories. Cliffhanger endings we will never get the answers to. Like Big Finish's Well-Mannered War, Daleks Among Us, Dalek Empire, and the forever lost Gabby Gonzalez. Taken before their time. Maybe if we go by the theory of canonical multiplicity, there's still a Sarah Jane Smith right now, floating in the orbit of space. Forever. Dear God, someone please get her down. Fact number 2. The Doctor's home planet sometimes is Jewel. Busting out the comics now, I think the TV comic line was really admirable. It just absolutely played by its own rules. Even changing the planet of the Doctor's birth entirely. The home of the Time Lords, Jewel. As seen in the War Games, the Three Doctors, and named in Return of the Daleks, was a really barren wasteland world, where about 50 Time Lords live. It's a very small operation they're running here down in Burbank, Gallifrey. By the time of 1975, the Doctor had referenced his home planet as Gallifrey many times on TV. Hell, the Doctor himself was about to go visit it in person that very same year. Curiously, this time, Sarah Jane Smith was invited. The absolute cheek of it. The Doctor's returned to Gallifrey many times with human companions. But no, Sarah, you see, my lifelong best friend, Sarah. My people are racist. Yeah, thanks, Doc. Cool. Thanks for sticking up for me. Turns out there are no such prejudices on the planet Jewel. Making me think this is a much cooler place. And there's a little part of me that prefers this iteration of the Time Lords to what we eventually see in The Deadly Assassin going forward. And these Time Lords are just absolutely buck wild, caring less about the preservation of the web of time, and more interested in whatever floats their boat that week. The Dalek Revenge, Virus, and Treasure Trail are all comic stories where the Time Lords send Sarah and 4 on missions. But it's never clear what the motive of these missions are. Treasure Trail, for instance, is set in Italy in 1944, with Nazis looking to steal some famous artworks. Doctor, for your next mission, we need you to retrieve some famous Italian paintings from the Nazis. It is never explained why the Time Lords deem the Italian treasures important enough to send the Doctor to save them. This is quite strange. Especially as there's no intervening alien threat, there's no time interference shenanigans. The Nazis historically were going to get those paintings. And the Time Lords are actually, I guess, intervening with the natural course of human history, and have very vested interests. That painting wasn't kept in a Nazi vault for a couple years. I don't get it either. In the 5th Doctor story, Fallen Angels, the 5th Doctor remarks that the works of Raphael, 20th century painter, not Ninja Turtle, were all fixed points in history. Somehow. Somehow it tracks. I hate this series and its inconsistent consistency. Continuity told across decades. And then there's also the story where a human imposter who looks a bit like Tom Baker fools all of the Time Lords into thinking he's the Doctor. But that's one for another time. Jules Time Lords? They're not the smartest bunch in the book. Last year I picked up this hardback coffee table book called The Time Lord Letters. How'd you describe this thing? The collection of letters and notes that the Doctor has apparently written throughout his many travels, some of which, if you place them in their actual stories, are batshit. Did you know that whilst on the Orient Express, the 12th Doctor stopped all he was doing to write Agatha Christie a written letter, asking her what she would have done in this situation, despite the fact that there is no way to deliver it and he's trapped on a ticking clock whilst people are dying around him. Christ on the Nile, that is accidentally hilarious. And also oddly in character. You want to solve a mystery riffing off Agatha Christie? Bring her on! It's not the first time he's done it. Agatha, I have no idea if you ever get this letter, I've no idea if I'll ever bother to send it, or be alive to send it, or want to send it. I'm on a train. The Orient Express. Dead people in mysterious circumstances. Someone sees something horrible, and then 66 seconds later they're dead. There's something called the foretold. How does it fit together? And what's it doing here on a train in space? If you've got any ideas, I'd be really grateful. I mean, I saved you from a giant wasp, so I think you probably owe me. Despite the fact that if he does send the letter, that means he survived, meaning he probably figured it all out anyway. Thanks for the advice if you have any. The Doctor. This letter is currently held as property of St. Sed's College Library. And there's just a ton of really weird, unlikely letters. The Doctor has a lot of pen pals. We've got a school report from Barusa from his days back in the academy. An apology letter to the meddling monk after he rigged his TARDIS and left him for dead. The death certificate of Luke Rattigan.
This one's going on my bedroom wall.
As well as the Doctor's actual final goodbyes to real companions. It creates an image that the Doctor is a very sentimental guy who isn't always hopping on to the next adventure, leaving people in it because he dare not look back. No, he's staying in contact with Uvanov and Toos from Robots of Death, the people of the town Mercy. Elton Pope got a whole apology letter, in which he just mostly recounts the events of Love and Monsters, as if Elton didn't just experience them himself. I saw your video, by the way, and you're right, you know. When you say that when you're a kid, they tell you it's all grown up, get a job, get married, get a house, have children, and that's it. You're right, it's not. That's not it at all. Like you said, the world, the universe is much stranger than that. So much darker, so much madder, and so much better. Elton Pope, philosopher. Who'd have thought? And it's just a lot of entries like that. Who knew that the Doctor felt so fondly for Lord Charles and Lady Cranley from Black Orchid? Two random humans who tried to frame him for murder? Chloe Webber, the Cardew family, Father Christmas, who wasn't even real, and therefore probably does not have a P.O. box. The airport controller from Time Flight. Other favourites include the note that the Doctor wrote to John Smith, a note that completely breaks the story Human Nature, the message that the Doctor scribbled on Margaret Slevine's baby egg, saying, "Please adopt me. Here are all the crimes she committed, but she's gonna be good this time." Who knew that the Doctor also keeps in good contact with Danny Pink, Queen Victoria, Horatio Nelson, and Harriet Jones? That last one really doesn't work. I don't know which one of those raises the most questions. Don't worry, Sarah Jane, Brigadier, Harriet. The Doctor didn't abandon you. He's always writing Christmas cards every year. They just needed first-class stamps. As for Robin Hood and James Corden's character, I just don't know what to make of these. Lots of these hardback books are very derivative, just sort of playing the hits and saying the catchphrase that you remember, not usually adding to the canon intentionally. And even rarer do they actually have a story of their own to tell. But it's fun, it's silly, it's dinky to think that the Doctor stops mid-adventure to write out a little note to someone, and that he always does say goodbye in excruciating detail. This hyper-literal reading I'm applying to it does it no favours, but it does make it slightly interesting. Thank you for watching. Stop a video, get it out! Oh, and send some love my way on the Ko-fi. That'd be really good. Just drop any tip you like. And I'll keep dropping videos. How's that sound?